Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and we're going to keep the NBA content rolling at you here with a 2021-2022 NBA Awards Finalists video here on the channel. Of course, this is coming in part because the NBA actually did announce the finalists for the awards. So I'm going to go through the top three for all the main awards for the NBA season. If it is something you are excited about, leave a like on today's video. Also subscribe to the channel if you're new, and give me your thoughts and your winners in the comment section as we go throughout this video. I specifically asked for them for one of the picks, but we'll jump into it here now with the first one, and also hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't. NBA Coach of the Year, and we're looking at the three finalists that the NBA announced. Taylor Jenkins from the Memphis Grizzlies, who had a phenomenal season. The season that Memphis had, I don't think a lot of people expected. John Morant took a massive jump forward. Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. And I think you have to credit Taylor Jenkins as well with the defensive, strategy he's put into place, the way that he's used Triple J on the defensive end of the floor. And then also offensively, just really progressing these players. I think that Memphis is a great story of development and also finding the right pieces out in free agency. When you look at the moves for guys like Kyle Anderson, Tyus Jones, two of those guys are going to be in free agency again this year. So we'll see if they're going to be high priority grabs for other teams. But they've just done a great job building this thing up. And I do think he deserves a lot of credit for this season. Then you have Monty Williams, who has 8 more wins than anyone else on the season, which is going to be really hard to beat. If you're another coach and you have 8 less wins at the very closest, that's the gap between Phoenix and Memphis is 8 wins. That is 10% of the season difference. So massive difference there. Monty Williams probably going to be considered the favorite. Then Erik Spoelstra with the Heat. I think that I'm really happy he's on here. Not only is he first in the Eastern Conference, but he actually dealt with probably the hardest difficulty when it comes to coaching, because he missed the most time from his stars. Bam Adebayo missed like 20 games. Jimmy Butler missed a bunch of games, didn't play as good as he usually does in the second half of the season for the regular season. And his best score this year came off the bench in Tyler Herro. So I think he's done a phenomenal job with this team. But for me, I think the winner is clear. Monty Williams. He could have won the award last year. They didn't give it to him, and I think he gets it this year. Just when you look at the voting for this too, specifically, you have to consider narrative. I think narrative is a big part of this. Everyone's human, and when they go to vote, they're going to say, "Oh, well, I didn't vote for Monty Williams last year, so maybe I feel like I should this year." And also, I think Taylor Jenkins' age might work against him here, because I think the voters might say, well, he's young yet as a coach. Maybe he can get one in the future. Whereas if we don't give one to Monty Williams now, will he ever get one? So I do actually think that does help him here. I think this will be nearly unanimous, probably not completely, but I think nearly unanimous that Monty Williams will be the NBA Coach of the Year. And I would be really shocked if he isn't. He was already voted Coach of the Year by his peers, and I think he should strongly be considered Coach of the Year by the media as well. Moving into Kia NBA MVP, or Most Improved Player, the MIP award. And it's an interesting trio here. No Jordan Poole. So Warriors fans, Jordan Poole did not get included onto the finalist list. Darius Garland is on here, though, of course, made the step up to an all-star game. John Morant took the step from being an all-star level player to a superstar level player. Now, I know there's going to be a little bit of criticism about whether John Morant deserves to be on here or not. In my opinion, he is one of the more improved players in the league. Just because you're at an MVP level doesn't mean that you aren't eligible for this award. There's nowhere written anywhere that that's the case. If a guy goes up 20 points a game in scoring, he should be considered a most improved player. Obviously, John Morant didn't take that big of a step, but he did take a massive step, and it came with a lot of winning for Memphis. And then Dejounte Murray for San Antonio, who, in the absence of DeMar DeRozan, saw a bigger opportunity to lead this offense and took advantage of it. He went up about 4 assists a game, about 7 or 8 points a game, and took a massive stride to a team that did get into the play-in tourney. When you look at where San Antonio ultimately finished, they were ahead of the Lakers. They were ahead of some of these other teams that maybe we wouldn't have expected them to be ahead of. And Dejounte Murray really deserves a ton of credit. I think going into the year, there was a real question about who the Spurs' best player was. Remember that Derek White at the time. I think a lot of people would have argued Keldon Johnson. Dejounte Murray clearly stepped ahead of those guys this season with his production and his play. So for me, I think Dejounte Murray gets Most Improved Player this year. That's who I actually picked a few weeks ago in my video that I picked my own winners. Of course, I did not have the finalists here in front of me, but for the most part, I feel like I was fairly accurate in that video. And I think Dejounte Murray does win it here, just given the fact of where his statistical jumps were, and also San Antonio making the play-in, I do think was huge. Garland, Morant, both good options, but I think Dejounte gets it done here. Moving into NBA Sixth Man of the Year, again sponsored by Kia. And the finalists here are Tyler Herro from the Miami Heat, who had pretty much the most prolific bench scoring season of all time. Cam Johnson from the Phoenix Suns, who the Suns are going to have a lot of candidates because they won a lot of games, were on national TV a lot. And, you know, let's be honest about it, the media watches a lot of nationally covered games. So if you're a team that doesn't get a lot of nationally covered games, you're probably not going to get as much love in these awards. That's just the sad reality of it. I'm not going to say there isn't bias because I think there is. And of course, I wish there wasn't. But narrative and who watches what games does really impact who wins these awards. And then Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who did have a really nice season. I want to commend him as well for kind of changing his body language and his demeanor around this team. When you have a whole bunch of young guys, you know, and he's had to deal with this, you know, playing with rookie guards and young guards who didn't pass him the ball at certain times. But that whole team has progressed, and his, you know, attitude and demeanor in that locker room did as well. So he does deserve a lot of credit. But let's be honest here. This one's the most obvious award. Should be unanimous. If it's not, that person deserves to lose their voting rights, because Tyler Herro should be the unanimous Sixth Man of the Year. I know Cam Johnson was good for Phoenix. I don't care. Tyler Herro averaged over 20 points a game off the bench. That is just insane. Doesn't happen like that usually in the NBA. You know, that's a higher scoring output than anyone like Jamal Crawford or Lou Williams or Jason Terry, who are all six-man winners of their own right. So for me, Tyler Herro, he has to be the consensus, unanimous Sixth Man of the Year. If he's not, something went wrong. Someone messed up on their ballot and probably doesn't deserve the chance to vote again for these awards. Moving forward to Kia NBA Defensive Player of the Year, the finalists listed are Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz, who's a three-time winner, Marcus Smart, who is the loudest, most vocal zero-time winner of the award, and then also Mikal Bridges, who's probably the most quiet zero-time winner of the award. So for me here, with Gobert on here, I think he's going to get a lot of love. And interestingly enough, he's the only center on this list. Marcus Smart, the only guard on this list for the Boston Celtics. He's the most outspoken on this list about him being Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy Gobert also outspoken, don't get me wrong. But Marcus Smart has been really begging and clamoring for this award for some time. And then Mikal Bridges just shuts up and plays and does a great job at it. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. When you look at what Mikal Bridges does, he goes out there and performs. You know, I said Marcus Smart's a guard, but Mikal Bridges guards every guard in the NBA. You know, when you're looking at a player who's going to guard Luka Doncic, going to guard the James Hardens of the world, going to go out and guard the best perimeter player, Mikal Bridges does that every night, and I think doesn't get enough credit for it. So I'm very happy to see he actually made the finalist list. I included him on my finalists in my video a few weeks ago, and I thought very likely that he would not get on that list. But again, Phoenix, the amount of winning they have done, I think has given him the boost here, even though in years past, I think he's deserved it just as much as he does this year. But ultimately, the fact that the list is boiled out this way, when you look at, you know, defensive rebounding, all the defensive advanced metrics do point to Rudy Gobert. So I think Rudy Gobert goes on to win his fourth Defensive Player of the Year, which is a ton. That puts him in elite company. And I think Rudy Gobert, you know, his Hall of Fame case is really strong already, but getting a fourth Defensive Player of the Year pretty much solidifies. I don't see any way that he would be left out of the Hall of Fame at some point. Marcus Smart probably punching the air right now if he's watching this video. Celtics fans, I think he's valuable, but you could have argued that Robert Williams was just as impactful defensively for them this year. And I was actually kind of surprised that he was excluded off the finalist list, because I think he should have gotten more consideration than he did. But nonetheless, Marcus Smart, definitely a great defender, don't get me wrong. But I think Gobert probably wins this award, which leads us into Kia NBA Rookie of the Year, which is probably the most contested and most controversial award this year. So before I say who I think is going to win, take a deep breath. I think all three of these guys are awesome. I really, really do. Cade Cunningham, probably one of the most slept on, which is crazy because he was the first overall pick. You would think, no way that's possible. But this is the effect of playing in Detroit, right? You know, national media just doesn't know you guys very well. And the fact that someone put Herb Jones over Cade Cunningham on rookie first team, that is insane to me. And that person should never be able to vote again. Obviously not someone who watched enough Detroit basketball this year. And this is coming from someone who loves Herb Jones. I thought Herb Jones was going to be awesome. I actually had him as a first round pick last year. Of course, we all know he went 35th in the draft. But I thought he was a player who should have gone higher. But nonetheless, Cade Cunningham was just better than him. So I don't understand how a voter would have messed it up that bad. Scottie Barnes from the Toronto Raptors, awesome this year. Of course, the Raptors moved into 5th in the Eastern Conference as well, and Scottie Barnes was a big driving force to that, did everything that Nick Nurse asked of him, and we all know Nick Nurse, one of the craziest coaches in the league, who's going to ask his players to do anything and everything, and Scottie Barnes did deliver on that. And then Evan Mobley from the Cleveland Cavaliers, of course, a 7-footer who moves away that I don't think he should be able to move. It's pretty crazy watching him. He's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. These three guys are all awesome. Jalen Green, had he played like he did toward the end of the season all year, I think he would have probably been on this list as well. So, I mean, the future is in bright hands in the NBA. But ultimately, the guy I think is going to win it is Scottie Barnes from the Toronto Raptors. What I feel is, again, a little bit of narrative here. Cade Cunningham struggled like the first week of the season, maybe 2 weeks of the season, which is literally the equivalent of like 6 games. And, you know, the media never forgot about it. So Pistons fans, I know you're going to be sad, but I think Cade probably is right up here with deserving this award, but I don't think he's going to get it. This is just who I'm projecting will win based on the finalists. And Evan Mobley, you know, I think just the amount of time he missed means that Barnes out edges him narrowly. I think the award finishes Barnes 1, Mobley 2, Cunningham a little bit of a distant third because the media just seemingly hates him for no reason. Very arguably, Cunningham's the best player on this list, and actually I would probably say that he is. But I think Barnes and Mobley are awesome as well, and I think Barnes does win the award. Moving on to Kia NBA MVP, and again, probably right in that conversation for most contested, most controversial. We have 3 really great finalists, and these are the 3 I expected to be. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, of course, from the Bucks, from the Sixers, and from the Denver Nuggets. And for me, I couldn't really come to a conclusion on who I thought was going to win. You know, Embiid won the scoring title, which you don't really see from a center. Nikola Jokic had arguably the most efficient scoring, season for a center since Wilt Chamberlain. And Giannis Antetokounmpo was arguably the best player in the world all season long on both ends of the floor. So for me, it is very hard to choose. If I had to 100% guess with all my money on the line, I would guess Nikola Jokic, because there's going to be a lot of these media members who are advanced stats nerds and say, oh, well, Nikola Jokic should be the MVP because he led in VORPs. And I'm like, okay, cool. I guess you do you. That's what I have to guess. Remember, I do think this is a biased process. I don't think that this is a perfect way of doing things, but ultimately it's how it's been done in the NBA for a long time, and it will never change. So with what I'm projecting, I think maybe Jokic wins it, but I think this is going to be a really tight race, which I'm excited for, because we'll get to see who the MVP is, and I think it's going to be really, really close. It might come down to a few first place votes. My guess is Embiid probably finishes second, with Giannis finishing as a really close third. Give me your picks in the comment section. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel as well. We're nearing 10,000 subs, so it's really, really awesome to have all your guys' support. Let's keep pushing. Let's move the channel forward. Thanks again, guys, so much, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.